Hey everyone, this is Mukesh Otwani once again from learn-innovation.com. Today in this video, we are going to talk about string in JavaScript. Okay, so in my previous video, we have already discussed the different data types in JavaScript, right? So there we discussed primitive and non-primitive. So in that video, I just discussed how to represent a string, but this topic actually need a dedicated video. So today we are going to talk about string in detail and the different method which it has and how we can use it and how we can use them for automation, because our main goal is that whatever concepts that we are learning through this series, we will be implementing them in our WebDriver IO or Cypress or any other JavaScript framework that you will be learning for web automation, API automation, or for mobile automation. Okay, so let me quickly create a JavaScript file. I will give this file name is stringdemo.js file. Now, if you remember in the last video, as I mentioned that we have string as a primitive, but we also have a string as an object. Okay, so let me show you. Suppose if I create one variable called name, and if I simply just type this as Mukesh Otwani, and if I simply print this using console.log, and if I just say type of name, it is going to, okay, let me take some name because name is a reserved keyword here. Let me take full name or f name. Let me just type here f name, and let me simply run this. So I will just say node, and our file name is stringdemo.js. so you can see it is giving a string which is basically a primitive type, right? Now let me create another string, okay, in a different approach. You might not understand this part, okay, but that's okay. Once we move it, I will show you how this part works. For the time being, let me create another string. I will again use let, and I will use lname, and I will say equal to new. For the time being, just follow me. And within this, if I simply pass a string, let's say Otwani, so you can see this is also one of the variable. This is also one of the variable. But this time, if I just pass console.log, and if I just type of lname, you will see a different output this time. So let me run this. So you can see the first type of it is saying it's a string, okay, which is first name. But in the second approach, I just created a string in a different approach, right? So you can see it is representing as an object. So what is string? What is new? We will discuss in detail. So for the time being, just remember that we also have a string in a primitive, plus we also have a string as an object. Okay, so now whenever you type anything, let's say I will just type let f name equal to Mukesh Otwani. Now the moment I type f name, and if I press dot operator, you can see I can access all the methods and properties, right? So how it is happening, JavaScript automatically convert string primitives and string object. Okay, so you can call any of the methods or the properties from string object. Fine, so let's see couple of methods and properties. So let me start with the first one. Again, I will be using console.log every time so that I can show you the output. First of all, what if I want to print the name? Okay, let me just write here, my name is Mukesh Otwani. I'm just giving a random string, okay? You can use any string. Concepts will remain same. So let me call a couple of methods. So I will use f name, and the moment I say dot length, you can see this is one of the property. It should give me the length of this particular string, which is printing in our case 24. Okay, now let me also show you. Suppose if I just want to access, okay, the first character, now I can use something called indexes. Okay, so in bracket, if I just give 0, it will just give me the first character, which is in my case it's M. The moment I change this to 1, you should get Y. Okay, so we are using indexing here. Now if you want to search something in this string, okay, so this is very common use case in automation, that you will get a lengthy string, and if you want to search something, and if you want to check is this string contains this, you will be using one method called includes. Okay, so suppose if I just type console.log, and if I just want to search is this f name includes, you can see we have a method called includes, and does it include name? In our case, which is yes, so it should return me true. Fine, so if I run this again, you can see I'm getting true. but the moment I change this to capital N, so you can see even that it is available, but it is case sensitive now. It is a small n, here it is capital N. So in this case, it should return me false. So make sure whenever you do this kind of search operation, it could be includes, start with, ends with, they are basically case sensitive. In a similar fashion, if I simply show you one more method, let's say fname dot starts with, or let me just use this, okay, let it be fname. Ideally this should have given, I should have given a different name, but it's okay. So let me just type my, so this will check if this string starts with my. In our case it's yes, so it should return me true. Here you can see, and if I simply make it small m, even though it is matching but it is case sensitive, so it will say false. So make sure that whenever you are doing any kind of searching which includes starts with, ends with, they are case sensitive. So let me quickly show you another method which is ends with. This is another method, and I will simply check is this ends with Otwani, which should return me yes, which is true. Let's also see a couple of other interesting methods. So again I will use log, and let me just split this string. Okay, so the moment I say fname, you can see I have couple of methods. So one of the method is split. This is basically whenever you want to split this string. So I want to split this string whenever I will find space. As you can see, I'm just giving one space, that if this particular string has some space, it will split. So the moment I run this, you will see some very interesting output. Okay, so can you see this? Now this is basically an array. Okay, so don't worry, in the upcoming lectures we will also talk about array. So this array, as you can see, it's a string array, and you can access the array using indexes. So if you just put mouse over on the split, so basically you can do the split. You just need to put the separator, and it is going to return a string array. This is exactly what we are getting right now. So let's say if I want to access this value, so it will be 0, 1, 2, 3. So let me do one thing. So let me show you in two statements. So I will just use one variable called arr, which is array. I will say fname, which is our string, and I will do the split. Split I want to do using space. So this arr is nothing but array object. Fine. So if I want to access, let's say, a specific value, I will be using index. So I will say arr, and this will be 0, 1, 2, 3. The moment I say 3, I will be getting only specific value, which is Mukesh. In my case, if I just say 4, it should return me Otwani, which is quite obvious. But the moment I give some invalid index, 5 or any index which does not exist, you will be getting something called undefined. And this is all we discussed in the previous video. So I would recommend, if you are new to this video and if you don't know about the data types, please go ahead and watch that video. I will give you that video link in the description. So we are going to use this split method a lot. Okay, and you will get many use cases where you will get a very lengthy string, and from that string you have to capture a specific value that you might have to convert. So that example also I will show you at the last. Okay, let's understand the basic methods which we have, and once you understand, we will just create one small string which will have some numbers string. We will split and we will just capture a specific value. Okay, so hold on for a couple of minutes. Let's use one more method. I will say fname. I will just say to uppercase, which will basically convert this into uppercase. In a similar way, we have something called lowercase, so you can simply also convert this into lowercase. And we also have something called trim. Okay, so if I have some white spaces, let's say I just want to have here, I have white spaces, okay, which I don't want. So I can use one method called trim method, which will basically do the trimming part. And good part in JavaScript is we have multiple methods for trim. So we can just call the trim end trim start left right. For the time being I will just call trim, and let's see the output. Let's see the output of the last 3 methods that we have used. And here we go. So it is completely in uppercase, this is in lowercase, and it is just removing this additional white spaces. So I will just move them back. I just added just to show you the trim method. Let me use one more method. Okay, that method is basically called replace, that whenever you have to replace some value with some other value, you can use replace. Okay, so in our case, let's say I just want to replace this Otwani with Motwani. In that case, I just need to provide first is what exactly we have to search. In my case, we have to search for Otwani, and this I will convert into Motwani. Fine. So now if you just see the last output, it just changed from Otwani to Motwani. Again, if it is not able to find, it will not replace, but in case if it is able to find this guy, it will replace with this. Now the last thing that you should notice, that this is immutable. It means whatever methods you're calling, that is not changing the original string value, that is immutable. So the moment I just print fname, you will see that value is still same. So if you want the latest value, you have to hold to a new variable, then you can use it. So it will not change the original string. Okay, now let me take one example that is very common. Suppose if you're working with some web application, okay, let's say it's an e-commerce web application, and you got a final message called your product price is this. Okay, and we just need to capture price and we need to validate. Or it could be any other error message that your password is incorrect or your credentials are incorrect, right? So this is all string kind of messages you will be getting. Now I'm taking the first example as of now, where I will have a string. From that string I just need to capture one integer value and I need to validate that. So let me create a new string. I will just use let again, and I will say this is final message. And what is my string? Let's say the total price is, let's say 200 USD. This is one of the messages that you will be getting. If you have a space, it's good. If you don't have a space, that is also you can do. So I will show you both the scenarios. In this case, I just want to validate. Suppose I have added 3 products in the cart, and if I just take example 100, 50, 50. So 3 products that we have added in the cart, it should be 200. So I just need to validate it should be 200 or not. So first approach, again we will be using the same thing, which is something called split. As we can see, we have some spaces here, right? So I will say this final message dot split. So basically the moment I say, okay, this is a method, guys, I will use a split and I will split using a space. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So the moment I say 3, it is going to return me this 200, right? So I will say the value, but one thing that you have to notice here, the moment I say type of value, so basically it is going to return me a complete string array, right? From that array, if I'm just taking one element, so the final value that I will be getting is a string, right? But I want this as a number, right? So that I can compare 2 numbers and I will finally validate. Now the question comes, how we can convert this string into a number. So what exactly we are going to do, I'm just going to create one more variable called price. Okay, now I'm going to use something called parse int. So as you can see, we have a parse int, and here I will simply pass a string that I want to convert into a number, right? Convert a string to an integer. In our case, we want to convert this value, which is basically a string. It will convert into number. So now I will be using log. So I will log this, first of all, the price. But before printing the price, let me also print the type so that you can understand it's now number, not a string. So you can see earlier it was a string. This time it has converted into number, and again we are getting the final price. Now I can compare. So if I just write, okay, basically I want to have some validation. So since we haven't covered much, but still I will just write if the final price that we are getting, in our case it will be 200, if is equal to 200, then simply print pass, else fail. This is just a temporary solution, guys. Once we move ahead, we will be having a standard framework which will basically do this kind of assertion. So for the time being, we got one string. So first we call the split using a space. We captured the third index, which is fourth value. We got this as a string, then we converted into integer, and then finally we are validating. So don't worry, we haven't discussed about if else now, we haven't discussed about arrays, but still I just want to show you the capabilities of a string and how frequently we will be using and the different kind of use cases you might get. Now the second part of the video is about template literals. Okay, so first of all I will show you that if you don't use template literals, what kind of challenges you might get and how you can fix that with the help of template literals. For this, let me create a string. So I will just use let. I can use any string, so let me just use this as message, which is msg. And now how we represent string is using single quote or double quote, right? So let's say I'm just presenting one string, that final amount is, let's say this time it's $300. Now suppose I want to show this final message in single quotes. How we can do that? So now we will be using something called escape notations, where I will simply give one backward slash here and one backward slash here. So now JavaScript will escape this part. Okay, so now let's print this. If you just see the log message, okay, you will get the final in single quotes, right? In a similar fashion, let's say if I just want to present this in next, let's say I just want to give a tab. So I will be using something called /t. Okay, so now if you see the final output, in a similar way, let's say I want this USD in the next line. So I will use /n, right, which is new line. So again, if I run this, you can see I'm getting this final, then tab, then in the single quotes, then I will be using new line. To avoid this, now we can use something called template literals, and now here we will be using something called backtick character. Okay, so suppose I don't want to use this /t, one single slash and /n. Now I can use, okay, and I will say it's a new message, and now I will be using something called backtick. Okay, you can find just above the tab or just before one. Now I will write my final message. Okay, I will say final amount is, let's say, 300 USD. Okay, now if I simply want to present this in single quotes, I can do that directly, as you can see. So let me print this directly so that you can see the final output. I will just type new message. As you can see, I am not using any skip notations. I'm just giving single quotes. Now let's say if I just want to present them in double quotes, I can do that, right? What I want this from the new line, I can do that. I don't have to use any /n. So you can see it's coming, final is coming, then amount 300 USD is coming the next line. I want this USD also in the next line. Now we can do that. See, so this is kind of flexibility that you will be getting when you are going with template literals. And if you want to pass certain expressions also, you can pass that. Okay, it is just in that case you have to use dollar and curly braces and the value that you want to replace. So suppose now this value, it's dynamic and it's coming from some other variable. So let's say I have a variable called final x variable, which has value called 90, and now I don't want to hard code this. I just want this x value to be replaced here. So what I can do, I can write dollar symbol, and in curly braces I can write x and this will get replaced. So just print this, and you can see final amount is 90. So it's very easy when you go with template literals. So basically it will give you more control on your dynamic strings. Fine. Even if you go in this fashion, it's perfectly fine. But if you want to have a clean code, and if you're using ES6, then definitely go with template literals. Okay, so just a quick recap. Okay, so we started with a very basic string. We just had one string called my name is Mukesh Utwani. Then we have seen one of the length property. Then we discussed how we can access a particular index. Then we have called a couple of methods, which starts with includes method, which will simply check does my string contains this. Based on the value that we pass, it will return true, false. It's all case sensitive. In a similar fashion, we discussed starts with, ends with. Then we also discussed about split method, which will split based on what expression you are passing. As of now, it is returning string array. We haven't discussed array, but still, if you are familiar with array, maybe you have gone through, or maybe you have learned some other programming language, because array concepts are almost same in all the programming language, which is returning a string array. So we are just trying to access the fifth index, which is sixth value. Then we discussed some other interesting methods, uppercase, lowercase, trim, replace. Then we also discussed, let's suppose I want to capture a particular price from a particular string, how we can do that. So we have again called split. We captured the value, then we converted using parse int. Okay, then we just use this if else statement, and finally I showed you something called template literals and how it can help you. That's all for this video, guys. In case if you're new to this channel, then make sure you subscribe this channel, share with your colleagues and friends. And in case if you find any issue while learning, please let me know in the comment section, and I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye bye.